All right. Awesome. So we're going to get started. I'm going to share my screen one more time so that we can get going. We are very excited today to have a special guest, and we're going to go a little bit out of order today because we do want and value Mrs. Mills and the administrator's time. So we want to make sure that we're working within the second period bell so that we aren't taking up too much time. So welcome again. This is the Schreiber HSA March meeting. My name is Rupali Gupta-John. I am the senior co-president, and I have with me here Elizabeth Callahan. She's waving. She is the junior co-president. She is currently at work, so I am really happy that she's able to join. We have here with us, if the administrators would like to quickly say hello. We'll start with Dr. Bear.
Hi, everyone. Katie Bear. I am the principal of Schreiber High School. Thank you for joining us today.
Hi, everyone. Dave Miller, assistant principal, 12th grade.
And I don't see the other ones on here right now. We have Craig Weiss, who is the assistant principal for 11th grade. And we have Jerry Weinstein.
There's right here.
Good morning, everybody.
And we also have Carmine Mattina, who is in for Ms. Kristen Anesis, who is home with baby Penelope.
Aw. So I just want to give a little update while we wait for Ms. Mills to arrive. We've had a very busy start of the year. I want to just say a giant thank you to the staff and administration at Schreiber High School for a very successful Schreiber Slam. If for those of you that were not able to join, feel free to go to all of the social medias that it is on, especially Port Vikings. It was an amazing event. The energy was electric. The students, the teachers, the staff, it was just a once in a lifetime event, I think, for how amazing and energetic that event was. And it was done for Wrestle for a Cause. So there was $25,000 that was raised, which will be used for a donation to Alex Lemonade Stand in honor of Pierce Slutsky, as well as programs that we run here through the Schreiber HSA. So I just saw Mrs. Mills arrive. There she is, and she's just connecting. So again, we are going to go a little bit out of order because we are very conscious of the administrators and teachers' time. So I am going to hand it over and make Miss Mills the host, so she can also share the screen as she needs.
Good morning, everybody. I'm super rusty with Zoom. I think it's motivated forgetting of how to use this. So let me just figure out, maybe Dr. Bear, you could help me to find the share my screen.
Sure, at the bottom, it's green.
Okay, share screen, there it is. Okay, so if I share this.
And you may need to unmute the screen sharing when you play that video. So you'll see it at the top.
Okay, wait, and I've lost you. Hold on, sorry, guys. Share.
You can see that Ms. Mills is live from our writing center.
Yeah, it's not giving me the option to share the Ms. Dimitriadis is here because she's like my learning partner. I'm trying to share the screen, but it's not giving me the option to share the presentation. If you click share screen, okay, and then it's here. Can you guys see the screen?
No.
Yes?
Not yet.
Not yet. Okay.
Ah, there we go.
Okay. So then everyone can see me and the screen?
Yes.
Okay, awesome. Okay. All right. So we're not actually, I didn't want to actually start with this, but so I'll just like talk you through a little bit. Does everybody have access to the presentation?
We can put a link into the presentation.
Okay, so just to give you a little background, I'm going to focus on my portion of the presentation that I presented to the Board of Ed at the Curriculum Committee meeting last week. But I spoke with Dr. Feeney yesterday, and we had discovered this video together, and he thought it would be really impactful if I shared it with you guys this morning, because it just kind of gives you a sense of the power of ChatGPT and the various ways we can use it. I'm a little concerned that the announcements are going to be coming on right now and you might not be able to hear it. What do you think, Dr. Bear?
I think maybe we'll kind of talk about what AI is first, and I can do it with the announcements a little softer from my office than maybe you can.
Perfect.
So just for those people who are unfamiliar, we have artificial intelligence that is used. Oh, hopefully you can hear me. We have artificial intelligence that's used all over society at this point. So whether you're talking about Grammarly for people who use it, you could talk about Siri for iPhone users. You also have Waze. These are all different platforms that are already allowing artificial intelligence to kind of help you navigate your everyday life. So in November of 2022, ChatGPT came out, and Ms. Mills will go into more depth, but this turned into a platform that could be used for any number of things. Talk about assignments in school. I can tell you as an administrator, supporting some of the presentations that I've given, letters that have gone out, ChatGPT really had so many uses. And just to show you some of the power, we do have this video that will go through how quickly you really can enter a prompt, get the information, and how specific you can be with those prompts to really change the information that you're receiving. So we probably have about 60 seconds left of the announcements, and then we'll jump right into the video.
Important announcement about spring sports. Online continues for boys tennis, golf, and girls badminton till March 18th at noon. Today is the last day to submit a proposed school wellness day. Scan the QR code or see your teacher around the building. The kids forecast for today is a high of 60, and if you plan on going off for lunch, it'll be 54 degrees. Pretty bad, so wear your coat. Today's snapshot is Mr. Zambrana. Have a great day, Mr. Zambrana. Today's student check of the day is Cassidy Messner. Have a great day, Cassidy. Today is ski day and also National Open Umbrella Indoors Day. Have a great day, Schreiber.
Okay, oh boy. So Dr. Bear, I was having a hard time hearing you. I think I heard you say that we'll start with the video as soon as the announcements are over.
Yes.
Okay. All right. So just kind of add into a little bit of what Dr. Bear talked about. When we encounter a new technology, we often encounter it with sort of curiosity and fear, and sort of in awe of the power that it can create. Dr. Feeney had shared a video about when the internet was new and we were having trouble even understanding like what that meant. And so if you're in that place now of really not understanding what AI is and what the capacity of it is for education, this will give you just a small window into the ways in which it can be applied with one topic. And so we found this video really quite helpful. So I'm going to play it now. Oops. I don't know what just happened. Any idea what just happened?
I think it just advanced slides, so you can start it and then just skip forward a little bit. So the only audio that you're really missing is some royalty-free techno music. What you're looking at on the bottom is the prompt that gets entered, and you can see how quickly ChatGPT is really filling in the information. And the creator of the video highlights some of the specific differences that you'll see through each one. So now the person asked to rewrite that essay on an 8th grade level. So you'll see some differences in language, like a big fight that happened between two Greek cities, and fills in the rest of the essay. This is really how quickly it goes. It's sped up just a little bit, but chat is very fast. So now rewrite this on a college master's level. So you'll see, again, the differences in language. Rewrite this, but make it funny. So you'll see that there are some comedic elements that go in as well. And again, this is all on the same topic. So it's really just changing the tone of the writing and adding in some different language to make it relevant to the prompt. It's like the real life version of the movie Mean Girls, only with swords and less pink. So now even taking all of that information, how do we turn that into a 10-slide PowerPoint? This isn't creating the slides, but it's giving what the theme of each slide would be and bullet points to include on the slides. So now we shifted from create the essay to create discussion questions, and now we're focused more on the teacher side. So how can we adjust this for a middle school level course? Warning about this one, these are definitely dad jokes about the war. And now this is going through a stand-up sketch with the same topic. And you can see where it's saying comedian and a little riff, and then where the audience would laugh. Everything is inserted in there. And here, back to the instructor standpoint, write a short summary of this unit. So if you're talking about lesson planning and unit structure, there is some support as well. And now take that and divide it into individual days and giving the length of time. So they're really doing what we would call a scope and sequence, looking at planning out day-to-day instruction over a period of time. And now this is write an IEP goal, which would be our students who have special needs. So they have separate goals that are written on their individualized educational plan. So this would be an IEP plan for a student who needed reading support. And this is also interesting. So now back to a high school level, if we were showing a film, and here are speaking particularly about the war that never ends. So write an email to parents talking about how this film will be shown during class and the way that students would be able to opt out. So now if a parent replied to that email with some concerns, how can you respond to the parent when you want to talk about the benefits while also making sure that they have the information that they need. And while this talks about Common Core standards, and we're more shifting to the next generation standards, you can see the point here that while we have a topic, we've gone through a scope and sequence, some lesson plans, some information, how do we connect it with the standards? And you saw that it took a little bit longer to respond, but still came up with the information. This is probably my favorite, the haikus. And you'd see that you can even say, write another funny haiku, but make it better. So we'll talk about how important the prompts are when you are working with ChatGPT or any AI. Back to you, Ms. Mills.
Okay, great. Thank you, Dr. Bear. I'm looking to try to advance the slide. Having trouble.
Spacebar instead of arrow.
Yeah,
yes.
Okay, got it. All right, so I'm going to move into my portion of the presentation because I'm most familiar with it and can speak best to the experience of the English department. So I'm just going to forward down. Some of these slides are just, warnings about trusting ChatGPT to be accurate all the time. Okay, so AI at Schreiber. So you can imagine that last November, when we started hearing the words ChatGPT for the first time, and learning about its capabilities and that it could possibly, write papers for students and like produce writing for them. There was a lot of fear and concern about what is this new technology and how are we going to deal with it? And so we decided to, have meetings about it and to kind of pull together what are all the things we're hearing about this new technology and how is it going to change education? For some teachers, it was like a moment of existential crisis. What is this going to mean for our discipline? And how are we going to contend with yet another technology that threatens the work that we find so valuable? And so, we had department meetings about it and kind of just like pulled together information that we were all learning as it was coming to us in real time. I spoke with Dr. Bear, Dr. Feeney and I, the three of us kind of together decided to share articles and books and podcasts that we were listening to just to gain access to as much information about this technology that we could. And which was actually had a very beneficial result for all three of us, I think, in that we decided to just be curious about this technology rather than to be afraid of it. Dr. Bear actually was really lucky to find a staff developer early on in this school year to work with the department. She's the director of curriculum and education and curriculum and just curriculum.
Instruction.
Thank you, instruction. Thank you, Dr. Bear, at Long Beach High School. And she worked with us in October. But before we even get to what we did at that workshop, I took another workshop at Bard College. It was called The New Kinds of Attention, Writing with AI, where they talked about the word artifice and how it's connected to artificial intelligence, and found it to be really interesting and impactful. Before we get to the staff development, I wanted to share with you that, we constantly look for guidance from organizations that help inform what we do in the classroom. And so we were grateful to learn in July that the Modern Language Association had developed a task force, and they produced a report that provided guidance to professional organizations about what AI was going to mean for our discipline and our profession. And so I pulled two broad overview statements that they made that I thought were useful for the department, and I'll share them with you today. The first one is that they said, we believe that writing itself, from the earliest impression marks on clay to recent word processors with autocorrect, research citation, and other aids, has always been a technology, and as such is always going to be open to new technologies. So that was the first interesting starting point for us. Yes, well, of course, writing needs to evolve with technologies. it is a technology. And the second point they made, which really was resonated with me, was we believe the primary work of educators is to support students' intellectual and social development and to foster exploration and creativity rather than to surveil, discipline, and punish students. And so that kind of spoke, I think, very poignantly to the concerns that arose immediately when we discovered ChatGPT had the capabilities of producing a student writing. And the idea is to teach students how to use this technology ethically rather than to punish and surveil them, because that's not what our intention is. Of course, they did identify risks to students and to teachers. And, you know, sort of we could have maybe come up with these risks ourselves, but I'll share them. That students may start to see writing as not as valuable as they once did, since machines can do it for them. And secondly, that, you know, I'm sure your children have shared with you that, you know, Turnitin has a ChatGPT detector, and there are other ways to discover whether or not writing is produced using AI. And what we're learning is that a lot of these detectors produce false positives. And so there is danger to students in maybe misusing the technology and maybe being wrongfully accused of using technology in their writing. So until those systems improve, I think we really need to make sure that we're careful about using detection approaches to AI. Risks to teachers, kind of obvious in that this is a new technology. It's kind of overwhelming. As students are developing literacy in the technology, so are teachers. And so as such, some teachers may not feel ready or able to integrate the AI into their curriculum without a lot of professional development and a lot of support. And so our approach here at Schreiber has really been to offer support, offer encouragement, offer the staff development opportunities, and also slow and steady in our approach to how we're thinking about the technology and how we'll integrate it into our classes. They offered also just threats in general, that the public may start to view writing and the study of language as something that is no longer as impactful or valuable. And that's where the homeschool partnership becomes really important to us, because as you communicate to your children at home and we communicate to them here in school, that writing is actually even more important now, and the ability to process through your thinking and create writing that is ambitious and interesting and broader scope than maybe we were capable of before, but that is still uniquely our own, and that our voices matter. The other thing that speaks to me, and something that we talk a lot about at various committee levels here at the high school, is, you know, it's really difficult for institutions to keep policies updated since the technology is changing every day. And so just trying to create a sense of like moral, ethical use of technologies rather than hardlining like very specific policies has been our approach so far, in kind of just folding this all into having academic integrity. And something else that is going to become an issue that we'll discuss is having unified policies for instructors and departments, so that students understand what is expected of them, how we expect them to use these tools, and that they will be consistent practice throughout departments. Currently, AI usage is really, I think, contained mostly to the English department, but it's only a matter of months before we start to see other departments becoming more literate and more curious about the technology. And so we want to make sure that we have a unified message to kids and a unified approach in how we're going to deal with it. I really appreciated that they ended the task force on very positive, optimistic notes. And I pulled out two from this long document to share with you today. They say, while acknowledging the inherent pitfalls in generative AI technology, it affords enormous potential benefits. It has the promise to democratize writing, allowing almost anyone, regardless of educational background, socioeconomic advantage, and specialized skills, to participate in a wide range of discourse communities. It's a big statement, right? The idea of democratizing the writing process and giving all students equal access to support is something that we're really excited about. They go on to say these technologies, for example, provide potential benefits to student writers who are disabled, who speak languages other than English, who are first-generation college students unfamiliar with the conventions of academic writing, or who struggle with anxiety about beginning a writing project, something that we call task paralysis, or just simply the blinking cursor. Sometimes students really become disabled by that blank screen with a blinking cursor, and using ChatGPT as a thinking partner can sort of help to eliminate that as an obstacle for them in the writing process. I have been discovering inspiration in so many different places and resources, and I'm really quite glad to have discovered Reid Hoffman in this process of learning about AI. If you are familiar with LinkedIn, you may have heard his name before. He is one of the co-founders of LinkedIn, which was a significant disruptor in the technology world when it emerged. He is currently called in some areas the philosopher of Silicon Valley. I think his approach to AI and how it can allow us to become more connected to our humanity is really quite inspirational. You'll see that picture on the side where it says Impromptu. This is a book that he wrote, and he actually co-authored it with ChatGPT 4, and it's a really interesting, optimistic look on how we can use ChatGPT not to do the work for us, but to amplify what we're capable of creating. He asks the question early on in the novel, in his book, should we even be calling it a tool? It is more precisely an interactive language model, giving us a new way to learn and a new way to be better. Shortly before releasing this book, he had been, a year ago, he had been preparing to deliver a commencement address at the University of Bologna in Italy. And as such, he started to think about the Renaissance and discovered that it's actually an interesting reference point for where we are right now. And he says, I've been thinking about the Renaissance and what we as technologists could learn from the Renaissance. To have technology have a really positive, enduring impact on humanity is to also think about beauty, and to think about how we ask a more beautiful question, live a more beautiful life, appreciate the beauty in one another and the world around us in much better ways. Thinking about this is one of the lessons from the Renaissance that's important to bring into the dialogue of technological builders, because the Renaissance also had technological builders, right? And so that gave me pause to think about, well, yeah, the printing press and architectural tools and architectural innovations and clockwork mechanisms that all emerged during this time were all technologies that had significant impact on how people lived their life every day. And so it is interesting to think about AI and the technological renaissance that we're in right now in these terms. And so I find Reid Hoffman to be a really wonderful resource in helping me to think about connecting to each other and connecting and preserving our humanity while confronting artificial intelligence. He has a podcast, if you're interested, that I find really interesting. It's called Possible. He's got a couple, but the one that I like best is called Possible. And in that podcast, he delivers every week an interview with someone who is a really important voice in technology and oftentimes in education. Most recently, he interviewed Mr. Khan from Khan Academy, and they talked about his new AI platform, Khanamigo. It was a really fascinating podcast to listen to. All right, so let me bring you back into what happened for the English department when we had our first staff development for AI and how we might consider using it in the English classroom. She came to speak with the entire department in October, and I feel that her talk was really transformative for us. The lessons she offered and the insight that she shared really helped, I would say, like, bring the shoulders down and have us think about how we are writing always as process writers, and that this is not going to change with the technology. And so we began the day actually, speaking our language, writing as a process. That's something that we profess here to students every day. And so, yes, writing is a process. And where do ideas come from? You think about like where you get ideas from social media, from books, from newspapers, from magazines, from articles, from family and friends and coworkers. And so we get ideas from so many places, and ChatGPT can just become another place where we can go to get ideas. And then, of course, how do we integrate ChatGPT into the writing process with students so that they're using it in the way that it is intended? And something that, you know, I talk to my own students about, and I'm sure you've all heard of Spark Notes. And this new technology has kind of given me pause to think about how we have approached other obstacles or resources that have threatened to compromise academic integrity in a way that maybe wasn't as useful as it might have been. So an example that I share with my students is, you know, SparkNotes was not intended to be a cheating tool. It's a study aid, but because we never fully brought it into the classroom and showed them how they might use it, I feel like students who are using SparkNotes, even as they are intended as a study aid and as a refresher or amplifying, you know, their recall of a night's reading, they still kind of relegate it to a place of, oh, I'm using it, but I did it the right way. And so I feel like we have some missed opportunities where we could just kind of tackle the new technology or the new Google search engine or the new whatever comes our way by bringing it into the classroom and having an honest discussion about, well, how might we use this in a way that it was intended? And so throughout the day with Lorraine Radice, she actually shared an article with us, a short article. And so all the teachers in the department read the article, and she created like a chart for us in Google Classroom. And so she shared the Google Doc out with us and asked us, you know, now that we've read this article, why don't you just list out 3 key points from the article? And so we did. And so this is where she first introduced us to the idea of centering the learner and activating what they know. And so when we activated what we learned from the article, we wrote our 3 points in, and then she gave us a bunch of question prompts, because at the time in October, we were really new to this technology and learning to ask the just right question of chat to get the response that would be useful or helpful to us. And so she gave us a bunch of prompts like, could you, you know, restate this quote so that an 8th grader would understand it? Could you offer a reason why this might be the most important point in this article? And questions that were kind of connected to the concerns of the article. And so we all put our questions into ChatGPT and saw just what it could do and just how it can expand and sort of allow us to explore different paths from what we knew about the text. And so that's how she started the day. And then we worked on, you know, literary analysis and integrating chat into that process. And so what you'll see on the screen right now is my first attempt to bring ChatGPT into my classroom. At the time, we were just finishing up The Great Gatsby by F. Scott Fitzgerald in my American literature class. And so we were getting ready to start the writing process, having finished the novel. And so students came into class, and this was something that they would have been confronted with even before we had this technology. And so there was no surprise to them. Each of the boxes was shared out in Google Classroom. Everybody had access to the doc, and it was going to be submitted at the end of the period. I asked them to just start with themselves, to activate what they knew, to activate their interest. And so the question that I asked them to respond to in this box, in the green box, is what theme, motif, or big idea were they interested in Fitzgerald's The Great Gatsby? In other words, what were some of the ideas that we explored together that they found most interesting and intriguing? And so students wrote for 10 minutes. They had no idea that this was going to be a day that they were going to be using technology in any way. They just approached this the way they would any lesson in an English class, and they wrote from what they thought was interesting. And then after I gave them enough time to write, we shared our thoughts. And so I wrote them out on the board, and they, you know, shared together the things that they felt were interesting. And so building on the where do ideas come from, and sometimes it's from your classmates, it's from class discussion. I then had them identify 1 or 2 ideas that they would like to think more deeply about based upon the conversation that we had, sharing out our ideas from the green box. And so again, gave them opportunity to write and to think and explore. And then I asked them to pick 1 idea, to just commit to 1 idea for that day that they think that had the most promise for them and the most interest for them in writing their essay. And so they wrote 3 or 4 ideas that they would use to support their idea for their essay. And so I gave them, again, time to write in the blue box, examples from the text. These are real plot-driven examples of what examples would you use to support this. And then I introduced them to ChatGPT, much to their shock, like, what's happening? We're going to do this in the classroom. And it was a really wonderful moment for me and my class to say, okay, no, we're going to do this together. We're going to bring ChatGPT into the classroom and discover how to use it together. And so, I don't know why this is not advancing. Here we go. Okay. So once they all logged into chat, I asked them to type the exact same prompt into the prompting text box. And this is what they wrote. I recently read F. Scott Fitzgerald's The Great Gatsby for my 11th grade American literature class. I found, and this is where they personalized it, blank, to be the most interesting and thought-provoking theme in the novel. As I begin thinking about my essay for class, I would like you to offer suggestions for how I might best explore and think more deeply about this theme. And so then chat gave them their responses, and I asked them to copy the entire response from chat and paste it into this document. And what they did with that was they worked on close reading and annotating and responding to the information they got from chat. Now, some students thought it was like, wow, so like almost magical and like really powerful, that they got ideas that they wanted to use in their essay almost immediately. Or others discovered that in some areas, chat actually had some information a little confused, and they needed to ask a follow-up question for clarity. I can remember one student even refined my question for me and said, you know, as I begin thinking about my essay for class, I would like for you to offer me 4 suggestions. And that just helped to refine the response that they got from chat. And so a couple of things happened in this moment. They learned how important it is to ask a question that is really specific, that will get you what you need and what you are looking for from chat, and how sometimes you have to ask it follow-up questions to refine its thinking. In the video we shared earlier, it was like, make it better. Yeah, kids are doing stuff like that now, like make it better, make it more simple, and it will do that for them. So that's when the real interaction becomes powerful for them. But so this was where we sort of ended it for that particular class period, having them really evaluate and critically review what the bot was giving them. Some useful, some not so useful, what they might use in their paper, and just creating this kind of transparent discussion about how we might use this. For homework that night, they wrote a sloppy intro, and then they wrote a polished intro, which I graded. And then we continued with the writing process in the more traditional ways. Once we got the guiding information that we might use from ChatGPT. In other areas in the English department, our persuasive writing teachers decided to try out using ChatGPT with their classes for the argument essay. And so they began, again, like I did, in the very traditional way, what students are accustomed to, and they brought them to the library to do research to refine their thinking on the topics that they selected for their argument essay. And so that's what we call centering the learner, which is so important when we're using these technologies. We have to activate what they know. We have to center them in the writing process so that they feel very much in control of what's happening. And so then they identified 3 major points that they wanted to use for their essay. And for some students, they used ChatGPT as a reading partner. We had some boys doing argument essays on the importance of, macronutrients when trying to build muscle mass. And some of the information they got from research they didn't fully understand. And so used ChatGPT to kind of help them to understand the intricacies of some of the stats and the information that they got from research. Ultimately, the way our kids used it once they had their information was to ask ChatGPT to create an original outline for their writing. And this is where our students are reporting that chat is most useful in organizing and helping them to flush out their thinking and making their ideas more fluid. And so it does, the outline that chat will create is often more like very deliberately chronological or topical, and sort of illustrating to students in ways that are powerful. No, this is a way to approach this argument, and this is the best way that you might engage your reader in appreciating your point of view. And so that is the point where students felt that chat was really useful for them. And something that made my teachers happy and made me happy was that our students really didn't find chat to be as helpful in generating ideas as organizing. And so I think that's where the power of the Lorraine Rizzi's workshop really came to fruition for us, because centering the learner and having them kind of own their ideas first, and feeling almost like stubbornly connected to those ideas has been really useful. So while chat will allow them to maybe open up or amplify their thinking on a topic, they certainly stay connected to their original thoughts. And so chat is really then useful in having them organize their thinking, which is great. And then we ask them to reflect on how AI helps them. And so that stage of the writing process that students have typically or historically been sort of reluctant, that metacognitive thinking about their thinking and their process has always kind of been more challenging to bring out of them. But when you give them a tool like this and have them reflect on how it helped them think more deeply or think more critically or really examine their thinking in new ways, they're able to do it and they're excited to do that. And so that's how they used it in the persuasive writing class. I recently discovered, like I said, constantly reading, constantly learning new platforms. And I discovered through a podcast, PI, which just stands for personal intelligence. And you won't be surprised to learn that Reid Hoffman, the man I mentioned earlier from LinkedIn, has his hand in this platform as well. And so it's a public benefit corporation that he and his partner, Mustafa Soliman, created a company called Inflection AI. And this was immediately appealing to me because their whole goal is to be responsible and prioritize safety. And so their mission really speaks to me. They designed Pi to be kind of collaborative. It engages the user in conversation, and it provides supportive and friendly feedback, which I think is really powerful as a teacher, as a coach, as a creative partner, or just a sounding board. And so immediately when I discovered this, teaching a public speaking class, I thought, okay, this platform is really promising for the work that I'm doing with my class right now. And this happened last week. And so when students, this is a new semester, their first formal speech for the course is an informative speech. And so I introduced them to this platform in the research, the first stage of discovering a topic. And so students came to class and I had them log into Pi and what is Pi, and they played around with it a little bit and kind of got that sense of, okay, so Pi's going to address me by my name and be really supportive and ask me how my day is. But then how am I going to now use it as a tool that's just not like a friendly conversationalist? And so I asked them to, ask 10 interesting facts about blank or pros and cons of blank. And so they went from their interest point of things like an informative speech. The rhetorical purpose is always to select something that you're expert in that other people may not know a lot about, or select a topic that you're kind of curious about, but never kind of set aside the time to learn about it. So this is an opportunity to learn about a natural curiosity. And so I modeled the behavior for the students. And so I asked the class to give me a prompt for the 10 most interesting facts about, and they selected the cosmetics industry. And so we put it in and it was on the projector and they could see what it produced. And from that list of 10, we could identify 1 or 2 points that we thought, oh, that has a lot of promise. This is maybe what I would write my speech about, were I to write about the cosmetics industry. And so I found it to be just like another approach, right? Like in the past, we used Google, informative speech topics, and they would get, pages and pages of informative speech topics. And sometimes, Google would let them down a little bit because the topics seemed kind of mined out or sort of commonplace and didn't really have a real natural connection to them. So this, I felt like, was more impactful in having them kind of connect immediately to something that they were interested in. And so that's how we started the process. So they discovered their topic and then they got approval. We did the research and the writing all together in class without using the technology. And then finally, when students were ready to present their speeches, I had them submit their written version to Pi and ask Pi specifically for feedback on structure and the actual content of their speech. And it did. And then they wrote a reflection on how that helped them, or if it helped them, and what ways it might have helped them. And then the part of the pie that was the most fun for me was having them actually deliver their speech to Pi. And so in their practice at home, they delivered the speech to Pi, and she gave them feedback. And the tool's not perfect. And so what we discovered was you have to say to Pi, please don't interrupt me until I'm done, because Pi was the first kids to use it found it a little frustrating because Pi would interrupt them mid-thought to give them feedback or encouragement. And so like little tweaks also, just like with chat, learning to ask like the perfect question or the more beautiful question or the more impactful question. With any of these platforms, we're learning that you have to learn how to adjust and anticipate for the bot what you need. So I want feedback, and I want you to listen to me for 3 minutes before you give me feedback. And the nice thing is Pi gives you the verbal feedback, but also will give you a written report of it. So you can go back in and kind of go back, what did Pi suggest I do here? And so, I mean, I like it. I will use it. I find it really useful. And because it's a supportive and encouraging coaching model, I feel sort of confident in allowing my students to use it at home without me being there to offer that support. And so far, I mean, tomorrow's our official feedback day for the speech unit, but so far students are reporting, oh, did you like my ending? Because, you know, Pi recommended that. And so they're excited about it. And it's something that kind of like makes March a little bit more fun for them because it's something really new. Before I discovered Pi, I did see its promise for the public speaking class. And so while I don't teach the public speaking class in the fall, I worked directly with the teacher who's teaching the course on how to use ChatGPT with her classes for her persuasive speech unit. And this was successful. I think I would probably go to chat also myself this semester when doing the persuasive unit. So again, for persuasive unit, we generally ask kids to select a topic that they're passionate about. Sometimes we start with like, why don't we talk about things that disturb us? So that it's not like the mind out, the canned speech topics that are just, you know, in the Google list of persuasive topics. So students really own their topic. They own their position, their feelings about it. And so they're really connected to their speech. So the connection, the writing, it's pretty easy to get them invested in the process of writing for their persuasive topic. And so we use ChatGPT at the end, after students had, you know, written their draft, gotten feedback on their draft. Then we had them submit their speech to chat and ask for very specific prompts. So these were 4 of the prompts. Identify areas where my audience might disagree or be confused. And you could see how that application would work really beautifully for persuasive speech. We get so invested in what we're arguing that we forget there's another side. So chat was a really useful tool in arguing that other side and pointing out that other side for students to anticipate areas of resistance to their point. Then identify examples or points that would benefit from more detail. You know, that idea of like showing, don't tell, again, emerging in the writing process here. And here we get it in the revision. Something that we're really always focused on for public speaking is the art of telling a story and how important it is to incorporate stories into our speeches to keep an audience engaged. And we love to listen to stories and learn through stories. We're really persuaded by stories. And so did I miss an opportunity to tell a story? And so that was really useful for a lot of our students who are still kind of struggling for where do I put the story and where might it be most impactful? And then we didn't even ask this, but chat offered advice for, oh, when you are presenting this, make sure that this point is a point that you emphasize, or your body language should communicate strength and conviction at this point in the presentation. So again, you can see how this is exciting to us because the students are still producing the writing and they're just using the tools really to amplify and refine and make themselves, as Reid Hoffman says, better, right? How can we make ourselves better through the use of this technology? And so what I'm learning also as more and more schools and teachers become involved in generative AI and learning how to become more literate and learning how to use it and become more confident, These infographics appear in on my newsfeed daily. And this is just one of an example that I shared with the department. And so if I find them useful, I just share them out. It's just an email. Good morning. I found this. Maybe we'll talk about this at our next department meeting. And if you look at number 4, write a terrible first draft that students can practice editing and giving feedback on. So I just find it fascinating, share out a simple infographic like this, and in the hands of creative teachers, in that moment, their needs sort of just kind of spikes inspiration. And so for number 4, 2 of our reading teachers had the chat write terrible first sentences with bad subject-verb agreement, inaccurate subject-verb agreement, pronoun antecedent agreements. And they very specifically asked chat to create these, and then they had students work with them to repair them, to fix the grammatical errors in the sentences. And so just from that little sentence there, a day's lesson was created. Rupali will laugh when I remind her about this, but I shared that in the AP Lit class, they're reading Faulkner, who can be a little obtuse. And they read a story by Faulkner, and they discussed it and understood it. And they used chat to ask chat questions about the story. They already had knowledge of the story. So it just, again, centering, activating their knowledge, asking chat questions and asking it to respond as William Faulkner. And so definitely a creative and novel use of the technology and having students, evaluate, does this really sound like Faulkner? Is this something Faulkner would say? And absolutely created like a fun and memorable lesson for that unit, for the class. I'm every day reading more things. Just last weekend, I read about a teacher who had her creative writing class. They just created a very generic story without a lot of details. And then the story produced. And then it was like similar to the video we showed. We'll now add in a snowstorm. We'll now add in a robbery, and like how the story changes and evolves as you ask it to incorporate more information. And so, yes, is ChatGPT a little overwhelming for us? Are all the new AI platforms that are coming out sort of hard to kind of like keep up with? Of course. But if you see how we like slowly think about it and think about how centering the learner will always remain our focus, and activating their knowledge and really acknowledging their grappling with text as being an important part of thinking and contributing to class discussion, then these tools can become a source of, further inspiration or just sort of creativity and fun for our students. And so we are learning every day so many things about this technology and what it means for our discipline. I'm going to start with the green bubble when it appears, and this I think is at the center of what we're learning. Banning AI is just not useful. Instead, we really want to be thoughtful and cautious in how we embrace it as a teaching tool, and bringing it into the classroom and showing students how it can be used, how it should be used to amplify their learning and their critical thinking. Now, something that I'm sure you're familiar with, and that is that like we don't have to focus as much these days on teaching students tone, because texting has taken care of that for our kids. I laugh because my own children will call me out sometimes on having a wrong tone in my text. If I simply, write okay instead of KK, or I put a period in the wrong place, I'm yelling at them. And so, kids know immediately when a tone is off or when a tone is doesn't match the message. And so we've felt like for a long time now that texting is kind of taking care of that for us, and kids are invested in it and they're really sensitive to tone. I think that this technology is going to teach them how to be very sensitive and careful about asking a just right question, giving enough information, asking chat specifically what they need in order to produce a result that would be useful to them. So I think teaching them skillful questioning skills is a great life skill. And I think that this technology will support those efforts. In my classes, I talk about AI as an intern, because I feel like that connects to them. They understand what an internship is. They know that they want one. They know what their role will be when they get one. And that is basically to do a lot of the heavy lifting for the experts, to be the person who's eager and ambitious, and to do whatever is asked. And so using chat that way, and then they become the expert. And truly, I think what they're learning is that they have to be more expert now than ever, because the technology can make mistakes. And so we need to be, and it's strange that it can make mistakes, almost makes it more human, but we could talk about that another time. But the reality is that they have to know what they need. They have to know what they want, and they have to be able to evaluate it. And so they are the expert, and chat's just the intern doing the heavy lifting for them. And I feel like that helps them to see our intention here, and that we never want to make them less knowledgeable. It's always to make them more knowledgeable. And ultimately, I think that for the English department, we will integrate ChatGPT the way that the math teachers have integrated calculators into their math curriculum, meaning that for some assignments, we'll allow it, and for others, we won't. And that's kind of where I think we are right now, and where I think we'll continue to be. And the other thing that I think became really apparent during the pandemic for the English department, once we got one-to-one devices, was that we have a natural desire to get kids away from the technology. And so, when we use chat to create outlines and to give them some, broader views of looking at their topic, we tend to really have started to embrace writing longhand. We've always felt that handwriting has allowed students to tap into creative centers of their brain that they cannot access through typing, slowing down their thinking, being a little messy, and learning how to kind of think through the mess of their mind and get it down on paper. It's becoming something that we're embracing even more. So like, as we advance with the technology, maybe, sort of like holding on to past practices in a way that is more deliberate and meaningful for kids. And the other thing that we're starting to discover is, with access to so much information, and it's constantly growing, this access, class discussion and student participation is becoming something that we value more and more in the classroom. And learning to share our ideas and uncover our thinking together is something that's becoming more valued. I think kids are discovering that it's more valuable as well. And so this is just, the beginning really of all of this for us. We'll continue to learn. We'll continue to go to workshops and staff developments and professional developments, so that we can continue to learn and evolve as the technologies evolve. But this is just a short, a small, little window into what we've been doing here at the high school, specifically in the English department.
Thank you so much, Ms. Mills. I just want to say that we are so proud to have teachers like you that, take this initiative to embrace technology and creativity in our space, in our community. So I'm, was so excited on the curriculum meeting, which is why I jumped up and said, Dr. Bear, can we please have this presentation at the meeting? But if there's a quick questions, I'll open it up. If you guys want to type it into the chat. We are running over. It's 10:01, and we do have to get through some old business. So if you do have a question, feel free to type it in. Otherwise, I will share all the amazing comments that I'm getting from the parents to you later in an email. This is extremely thought-provoking, and thank you again for this. Mr. Feeney, Dr. Feeney, do you have anything to add?
Thank you. I will add on, and I know you're short on time, but I want to thank Ms. Mills for a wonderful presentation. ChatGPT, of course, I don't know if you saw this part of the presentation in November of 2022. I think in December of 2022, I did a presentation to our whole admin team. And right away, Dr. Bear and Ms. Mills and I had been in email. Jumped on that, and really the evolution, the thoughtful, the reflection on how to incorporate this, and how banning it was not the solution. We had to find a way to, get folks up to speed and really learn to use this the right way. And her work this year is a culmination of really a thoughtful reflection. So I will echo your comments. I'm grateful that we have someone like Ms. Mills in that leadership position in the English department who I love English teachers, but I mean, let's be honest, right? It can be tough to move the ball with them sometimes. And she was able to do it, got some buy-in. She had the support of a wonderful principal, Dr. Bear. So from a district point of view, I think the high school is far ahead of where our other buildings are. I'm very happy for that. And now the others will use catch-up. And that's a big part of our push on our conference day, where everybody is receiving a 1 hour overview on AI. And then we're also going to have intensive workshops at all levels, secondary and primary. So but thank you. And I'm excited that you are able to present this to the high school HSA.
We have one quick question, and I don't know if this is quick or if you'd rather answer this in an email, any Dr. Baird, Dr. Feeney, or Mrs. Mills. Is there a concern about students becoming quote unquote lazy, or having, not developed critical thinking skills, so that when they get into college, are they going to be, not as prepared to be creative thinkers and writers because they're relying on their interns to do the hard work?
I will take
I'm happy to jump in unless somebody else wants to.
Go ahead, Dr. Bear.
So I think a lot of what we've been exploring are different ways that we can use AI to really enhance what students are doing. So some of that would include the process. So looking at even how English is incorporating it, there are ways to track through Google Docs, for example, that you can look at the revision history. So the students are still doing that heavy lift. It's not that they are having chat do all of the things like creating the ideas and coming up with the writing and editing itself. The students are still doing a bigger part of that. And I can speak for myself because I do incorporate Chat GPT and artificial intelligence to take some of the workload off of my plate. Even when I use it to help me in writing, help me in presenting, it still needs to be my voice. It still needs to be my main idea and the point I'm trying to get across myself. So it's really just used as a thought partner. And I actually said this to Ms. Mills, I think last week we were talking about it. I think Chat GPT, Grammarly, and these other platforms have made me a stronger writer, but that only happened because I came to the table with the skills. So we are still focused on developing the skills that the students really need to be critical thinkers, to be problem solvers, and they need to be intellectually curious. So we're still doing those things. It's the same way that Ms. Mills had thrown in an example. Calculators were added to mathematics courses. It didn't mean they don't know how to do the skills, but once they have that process, it can speed up. Same way we talk about autocorrect that happens, your phone is autocorrecting as you're texting. Well, sometimes it's not right. So you still need to know the difference of when it's correct or not. And then you think about even going from writing to typewriters to word processors, and all of a sudden you have spell check and grammar check. You still need the underlying skills. These are just supports. Anything you would like to add, Ms. Mills or Dr. Feeney?
Yeah. Well, I'd like to add in a little bit using the calculator analogy. My background is as a mathematics teacher. And certainly there are those concerns. And if clearly there's if you have an over reliance on the calculator, students, it can actually get in their way because they can't do some of that basic mental math, right? And that's critical. You should not need to punch in your calculator for some basic problem. So I know a lot of what mathematics teachers have struggled with is finding that balance, make sure that they have those basic skills, but also using the calculator to go on. And to Ms. Mills' point, sometimes, okay, we're not using the calculator right now. We're not going to use our AI assistant right now, whatever it might be. I also know that, especially, when I was a calculus teacher and graphing calculators were introduced, a lot of people, same concern. But for me, the graphing calculator opened up a whole different layer of calculus, and we were able to do problems that otherwise you just couldn't do as a high school calculus student, because you couldn't integrate this or you couldn't do that. And once you have calculators with computer algebraic systems and you can look at the graph, you're actually doing more real world problems, and they can see, they're not sort of fake numbers and fake problems. So it can open up and really help students explore more. But yes, teachers have to be tuned in to the fact that, we got to make sure they can still write and they can still do whatever brainstorming process. You can't over rely on any one tool. You've got to be able to have that in your own toolbox.
Thank you so much. So I don't want to rush everyone out the door, but I am aware that third period is going to be starting soon. So thank you again for joining us. And for the people that are here, please stay on. We have a lot more updates, and we're going to go as fast as we can through the committee updates. Again, thank you so much, Mrs. Mills, Dr.
My pleasure.
Feeney, for joining us today. And we're excited to see what the school comes up with next.
Have a good day, everyone.
All right. So again, we're going to go real quick through our committee updates next. So I have some of the parents did have to jump off because of the length of the meeting. So for the Cultural Arts Committee, we currently have the band. Oh, Dr. Bear, help me. It's the Tilly Center Band Extravaganza tonight, where all of the 4th through 12th graders will all be playing tonight. I know there are a few of our executive board parents' children that will be playing tonight. So we're very excited about that, as well as NYSSMA is coming up. So the kids are in the process of preparing their NYSSMA solos for the different NYSSMA festivals coming up. And there are a few ENL nights that are coming up in May. I don't know, Jillian, are you still on? Let me see. I think she had to jump off. You should have just gotten a text from the district that the district-wide, for the outreach committee, the district-wide spring clothing drive is happening. You can drop off the clothes. There's a big giant green bin in the lobby right next to the auditorium entrance, so that we can make sure that all those in need in our community can have clothes for the spring. So again, it's clothes that are for warm weather, so shorts, t-shirts, jeans. It's also sporting equipment. Any swim equipment can also be dropped off that day. Safety and substance use. I'm like going really fast. Safety and substance abuse. We just had an amazing parent university last week, the day after Schreiber Slam, where we provided for those that came, about 65 people came to be trained in Narcan training that was provided by the Central Nassau Counseling and Guidance. It was a free training. This is a training that we're going to be providing every year, I believe, and for parents, teachers, and the students who get training in their 11th and 12th grade health classes. It's really important, we feel as HSA parents, that we have Narcan out in the community so we can, the more Narcan that's out, that's more lives that can be saved. It's becoming a real problem. And the community task force currently met with in January with a presentation from Long Island PrEP, which is Long Island Prevention, Resilience, and Enrichment Program, which supports teachers and staff regarding substance abuse prevention and education, as well as professional development and community awareness. So the Substance Abuse Committee is trying to figure out how that program can be implemented within the Port Washington community. So they're meeting next in April. And now Gamble, Mara.
All right, so super quick, we've kind of been doing little things behind the scenes, but now that it's March, we're prepping for bleacher sales and lawn sign sales and ticket sales and finalizing budgets and design, and it's all happening. There will be a gamble on the 26th.
Of June. 26th of June. Just remember, it's a Wednesday.
June.
Awesome. Thank you so much. I'm really grateful for all of the hard work that all of the committees are putting together. Next, Nutrition Committee with Mary Apat. She has sent an update that today actually is strawberry smoothie sampling day at Schreiber in the cafeteria. And students will have an opportunity and encouraged to try the new smoothie options this week. And there is a fresh food produce drive coming soon. The date is to be determined. So look out for that. Jennifer Corain is here. She was here. Jennifer. Can't hear you. Ah, there she is. Oh, I lost you, Jennifer. We can see you. We can't hear you yet. Can't hear you. I can see you. Can't hear you.
Maybe you could type it in the chat. Or maybe she'll pop off and pop back on.
Maybe. Jennifer, you want me to give the update? Just thumbs up, thumbs down. I'm going to give the update. Okay. So if you guys have probably seen the emails in the newsletter that the staff appreciation, or Patty's here too. The staff appreciation luncheon is on April 17th. Patty, do you want to give an update?
Sure. Jen and I have just been working on collecting Venmos and volunteers for the day. And if you are able to volunteer, we'd love it. If you can shoot a Venmo, any amount is terrific. We've got a little Taylor Swift theme going in our Schreiber era staff edition. I don't know. I have boys. I don't really know that much about Taylor Swift, but we're going to work on it. I'm not prepared, so I don't know what else to say, but other than we'll make it great.
And it's a really, for anyone, parents that are looking for opportunities to come into the high school for a day to volunteer and kind of meet teachers that you haven't met. It's a really great day to just celebrate the staff and the teachers at Schreiber. And it's a lot of fun. And there's a lot of food. So definitely a great opportunity to volunteer. Who am I missing? I think that's it. Oh, and so the budget. Okay. If you guys haven't been paying attention, I'm going to give you a quick rundown on what's happening, what has been happening for the last couple of, I would say the last 3 budget meetings. For the 24-25 school year, the tax levy calculation for 24-25 came out to 3.39%. Unfortunately, the expenses for a rollover budget, meaning a budget that does no changes, makes no changes to programs, makes no changes at all, keeps everything exactly the same as it is from this year to next year, those expenses have increased due to inflation, things like health insurance costs, limited growth in our state aid, expenses due to higher than our revenue, and what we're going to be able to get because of the tax levy limit. So currently the gap for the tax levy versus the additional expenses for the school district is approximately $5.3 million. There are options. The options are to reduce expenses and the second option is to override the tax cap. Reducing expenses means that the board will have to make tough decisions, and it would require reductions in a variety of areas. There was a presentation on March 5th that I will share here, in which one of the options to come down below the tax cap or meet the tax cap was to cut approximately 40 staff, which includes teachers, EAs, TAs, nurses, custodians, anyone you would consider an employee of the district. Which would also mean cutting of programs and offerings at all levels across the elementary schools, the middle schools, including the high schools. Another option is overriding the tax cap, which means that the board would be proposing a budget that would have a levy limit over 3.39%. If the board overrides the tax cap, it can still structure the budget in a hybrid capacity where there would be some cuts and there would still be an override so that the increase in the tax cap wouldn't be the full amount. This is what was discussed on Monday of this week, March 11th, at the Budget and Facilities discussion meeting. We'll also include the link to that presentation where they presented 7 different options. What is going to be presented on the March 19th, which is next week, Board of Ed meeting, is what do each one of those scenarios look like from a cuts perspective in terms of programs, in terms of staff. Overriding the tax cap requires a supermajority vote of 60%. The Board of Ed has to adopt a budget by April 16th. If anyone was reading the news yesterday, the state legislature proposed their budget to counter the governor's budget. They have until the 1st of April to provide final numbers. The board has to adopt a budget by April 16th. So in essence, it's a work in progress. And we as the HSA highly recommend parents voicing their opinions and coming to these board meetings, because I think it's really important for the board members to know where we are. And as an HSA community, we don't want to see programs cut from any school. We definitely don't want to see concerned that we are, have classes that can have anywhere between 30 and 32 students. So this is going to have a significant, if cuts are made, this will have a significant impact on our Schreiber community. And on a final note, if staff cuts are made anywhere, whether it's EAs, TAs, nurses, custodians, teachers, etc., including administrators, it is illegal. By law, I want to say, it is the last in, first out method, meaning that the last person hired, the newest employees, depending on the department, would be the first ones that would be let go. Questions? I know that was a lot. There are, we're not necessarily, I can't provide a lot of details because we're not the ones working on the budget, but we can voice our concerns and the community's concerns to the board. But again, we really hope that more parents come to these board discussions and the board meetings so that the board does know that we, value our teachers. Dr. Bear, anything to add to that?
I think you covered it so well. One thing I'd like to delve in a little bit deeper is in presenting some of these options, we're looking at giving specific information about what that really does mean. So, while you might see a number of teachers that are on the screen, it doesn't necessarily mean that whether you're talking about a high school parent or an elementary school parent, what does that mean for your child? So when you're thinking elementary class sizes, well, they all have the same certification. So if you're talking about following the tenure list and what Rupali said with last in, first out, elementary certifications for a classroom teacher are all the same. When you get into 7th grade and higher, we have specialized certificates. So it's not just a teacher is a teacher is a teacher. You're looking at a math teacher has a very specific certification. Science teachers, for example, have a specialized certification within that. So you could be looking at a bio certification is different than a chemistry certification. So if we lose, for example, and I'm not saying that we would, but if you lost a science teacher, you'd have to look at what certifications were still available to have the course offerings. So as we look at what some of these options are, we want to get really specific with, okay, if we lost a teacher in this area, that means our average class sizes in that specific content area would look like this. This year, I know I did receive some well-heard complaints that our class sizes were high in a number of areas. I don't disagree. I wish that we could have low 20s, mid 20s. We don't have the staff for that now. My concern is that if we lose additional staffing, what that bigger impact would be at the secondary level.
So this is, again, really an important time for all of us to really paying attention and making your voices heard. So while I have everyone here, I am going to link you to, I just had it, the original board presentation from March 5th. Oop.
And all of these meetings for board meetings, for work sessions are available on the district YouTube page. So if you didn't see the meeting, whether in person or virtually, you can still go back and watch them. And same thing, if you're unable to come to the March 19th Board of Education meeting, but would like to hear the conversation, you can see that on the district YouTube page.
And all of the minutes and notes are on the PortNet Board of Ed section. All right. Couple more things. I promise we're almost done. Last but not least, the next HSA meeting is May 6th. And here's the important thing about the next HSA meeting. We need volunteers to take over some board positions for the HSA for next year. So if you're interested in being on the board, we need a junior co-president, which is a 2-year term. I believe that you've been seeing this in the newsletter. There are links to these exact bylaws. We do have nominations for the treasurer, membership VP, communications VP, and a recording VP. We are still looking for a nomination for the junior co-president position. I have to say that being on the one of the co-presidents of the HSA has been one of the most fulfilling and informative positions I've ever had as a parent or as a community member. I've learned more about the community and made such amazing partnerships while I've been in this position. So I really, if you feel that, passionate about making our school community, a vibrant, creative learning space for our children, I highly recommend that, let's have the conversation and we can dive a little bit deeper on what it entails and how to build that partnership. These are all the wonderful things that, you like that? The curtains? All the wonderful things that the HSA does do. This year, we again added the Schreiber Slam. We added the Narcan training, and we're getting to do a lot more things as we get more creative ideas that come out of parents and teachers alike, as well as our students. And finally, Q&A. Any questions that you might have? Kay, to the shortfall questions, no, we are not the only district that is having these shortfall conversations. This is all over Long Island, if not all over New York. It has to do with the fact that all of our tax levies, or most of our tax levies, especially in Long Island, are capped by the tax levy formula that is law, and inflation has increased significantly higher than that tax levy amount.
And when you start to talk about transportation costs, fuel costs, even buying paper, anything that, you are certainly feeling at home, I know that I am as well. When you put that together in a school community, each one of those costs really add up. There are some other differences that have happened as far as health insurance and what the district is paying on the behalf of employees, as all school districts do. So even some of those contractual costs in the background have also increased. If you are interested in learning more about some other school districts who are getting hit pretty hard, Long Beach has had a very challenging time, as well as Amityville. So if you just wanted to look in a little bit more, those ones have been in Newsday and kind of out in the community. I know that a lot of superintendents, including ours, are trying to reach out to see what we can do to get some of this aid back that we had lost. And a lot of that goes into post-COVID funds that we were provided that really helped to make up some of the shortfall that we needed. Those COVID funds are gone. So monies that we had been getting for the past few years is no longer available, not only to us, they're not available to anyone anymore.
If you do go on portnet.org, the first thing that pops up is a petition that we encourage everyone to sign, which is a letter to our local legislators. And it is there to help them know that the parents and community members are very concerned about Port Washington students and districts getting their fair share of their foundation aid and being fully funded for foundation aid. And again, it is everywhere. I know that the number for Manhasset is for their foundation aid is like 20% less than what it was last year. So yeah, there are a lot of districts in the same position or worse. Questions? Other questions?
Rupali, can you hear me now?
Yes. Yay.
Thanks. My iPhone was hooked onto my computer. Thank you, Apple. They rule the world. Just want to say about the staff appreciation luncheon that we are looking for volunteers, and also if you would like to donate funds, it's in the weekly newsletter. Very deep down in the HSA newsletter, there is a flyer, and we appreciate any help. Thank you.
There's a question in the comments, and I will definitely forward this to the board. I think that the community pushback is usually that we are administration heavy. No one ever wants to lose teachers, so why is it always that suggestion? I think some of that is because there are certain administrators that are mandated, are required by law. And but I will definitely send that question in to the Board of Ed.
I do urge the person who posted that, I can't see it, that's fine, to look at last month's board meeting, because there was a graph that included a number of positions, and it did include administrative positions as well. It wasn't just teaching
Correct.
positions.
Yeah, I believe it was two
Yes.
administrators in Central that, or across the district, that were proposed to be, positions were proposed to be eliminated. Anyone else? Again, feel free to email any questions to us. Kathy Manuel and the district budget will be presented at our next HSA meeting, besides just the meetings that are, not just, but as well as the meetings that are happening in the district. But our May 6th HSA meeting is a combined meeting with Parent Council and the Weber HSA. It will be virtual, where the district will be available. Kathy Manuel will be available to dive into what the accepted budget will be, or the proposed budget will be by the board. So please come, bring others, bring people that don't have kids in the community, or in the district, because this is a vote that everyone has to make. So again, thank you all. I'm sorry that it went over to 10:30, but we thought it was really important to have this AI in the classroom conversation and presentation. And I hope everyone has a wonderful rest of your day. Thank you.
Thank you so much.